So for my third tip about how to pursue an independent surrogacy journey, I am going to talk about how to effectively market yourself, whether or not you're an intended parent and surrogate. So first, I'm going to give you some tips, and then I'm going to provide some examples. If you search for surrogate or intended parent on Facebook or surromomsonline.com, you're going to need to post something about yourself. Keep in mind that people are scrolling through fairly quickly, and you need to catch their attention and capture their hearts immediately. This isn't easy and requires a lot of thought. Ideally, in your post, you'll disclose, and I order these in the importance that I think they are. 1, unfiltered photos of you and your spouse, if you have one, that convey your personality. So do you love traveling? Post a pic of you and your family at your favorite destination. Do you love cooking? Post a pic of you making food. Love sports? Post a pic of you playing a sport. I would pick about 3 to 4 pictures. Have one be a family photo of everyone in it, pets too, and you should present the most authentic version of yourself, so please avoid using filters. The second thing that I would include in your post is as many details about your vision of the partnership. What is your stance on termination? How many embryos do you want to transfer at a time? What is your communication preference? Do you want to text every day, or do you just want to check in at important milestones? How many embryos do you have? Are they PGS tested? Does the surrogate need her own insurance? Compensation? I know that a lot of intended parents avoid the discussion about compensation on their post, but I think it's a good idea to discuss what you can offer. It sends the signal that you aren't afraid to talk about money and that you have a good handle on your budget. Remember that having good communication skills is vital in any independent journey. The third thing that I would include in your post is a short summary of the reason why you are pursuing surrogacy. Keep the summary to the point, and you can disclose more at a later time. And the last thing that I would include in your post is any special requirements that your clinic has. So here's an example of intended parents searching for a surrogate on a post that you might see on Facebook. Now, the intended parents in this case are me and my husband, and as I mentioned before, we did not post on Facebook because we didn't even know Facebook groups existed. But after joining these Facebook groups and reading dozens and dozens of posts by intended parents, I've identified the things that generate the most interest among surrogates. So I'm going to read through each paragraph and describe why the information that I include in each paragraph is important. So, my husband and I are looking for a gestational carrier to carry our baby in the St. Louis area. So you want to identify where you live. We've been together for 8 years, married for 2 of them. We are both 35 years old and work as university professors. We are an active couple that loves staying fit, spending time with family and friends, and traveling. So these details are important because they help humanize the couple. And since this is a Facebook post, you don't have that much space. So you want to provide a little bit of information, but not a ton. So moving on, we are looking for a surrogate because doctors believe that I have an autoimmune condition that causes my body to fight against a developing placenta. I was pregnant for 25 weeks in 2019 after doctors realized that our son Luca was not thriving in utero. After an emergency C-section and 2 weeks in the NICU, we had to say goodbye to Luca. The condition I have is a high chance of recurring in future pregnancies. Now, this might be a little bit longer than you want, but you should generally provide a very short summary of the reason why you're looking for a surrogate. Then I list all the requirements that we're looking for. So these are just the normal requirements, and it's not very specific to our clinic, but these are the ones that you generally see on average. And this may be important because not all surrogates on Facebook groups know exactly what the criteria are, so it might be a good idea to post this. And then finally, the last paragraph that we would have on a Facebook post. As of right now, we have 1 PGS tested normal embryo. If the transfer fails, we plan to do another IVF cycle. Since this will be an independent journey, we are ready to offer $40,000 compensation or more for experienced gestational carriers. We would also consider hiring a third-party surrogacy consultant at the surrogate's request. Please feel free to message me if you're interested. Thank you so much. So I provided the information on how many embryos we had because many surrogates would like to know how many embryos exist. So ideally, many surrogates would like at least 2. So if one fails, they have a backup. And if you don't have any, it's just good to keep that information up front as soon as possible. I also tell them what we're ready to offer. So For us, $40,000 or a little bit more is reasonable because we won't be paying that agency fee of $22,000. So in the end, it still saves us money. We need to provide a little extra because, again, surrogates would rather go with an agency where they have support than to do an independent journey where they don't have that support. And then finally, I'm talking about a third-party surrogacy consultant. So these are people that are not necessarily agencies, but are people that can help facilitate difficult discussions or help organize the journey. And so they're not as expensive, but they're still going to be an additional maybe $1,000 to $5,000. But that then signals again to the surrogate that we want her to feel comfortable. So here's an example of a surrogate looking to match. And I reached out to her and I asked her if I could use it for these purposes, and she agreed. And so I thought that this was a really nice example of a potential post a surrogate could have on Facebook. So here she describes her previous experience. She's an experienced surrogate. And in this one, she talks about her preferences for communications. I'm looking to match with a family that wants to stay in touch throughout the journey. I would love for you to come to all appointments, but I don't expect you to make to all of them. As for the relationship afterwards, I don't have any expectations. So she's being open about what would happen after the delivery. And then here, which is really nice, is that she provides an itemized history of her pregnancies, which is very, very helpful and very straightforward. And she gives a little bit of what she's willing to do in terms of termination and how many embryos she wants to transfer. She also lists out the agency that she's in. So unfortunately, not all surrogates that you find on Facebook post will be independent. Sometimes a lot of agencies also post on Facebook to help find intended parents.